It pretty much started while I was in high school. A good friend of mine and myself would spend all day dismissing our regular studies and study mostly on ancient herbs and assorted ethnobotanicals. Being a Native American, I was raised in a world of shamanistic practice and teachings by my family. We would always know every, if not almost every aspect of any ethnogen we considered experimenting with beforehand. This was of great importance to me. I would rather be smart about doing anything than take a chance and be dead. Anyway, Datura was a touchy subject that I thought about doing someday, but wasn't in any kind of rush. Not to mention that my grandfather strongly recommended that I never take it, mostly because I was not qualified to do so by native custom, unless her spirit wishes it in my best interests. After I graduated from high school, I was a bit reluctant to go to college right away. I spent most of my time reading about random things and meditating. This is when I started my walk in life with Her Majesty. I was meditating one day when I was suddenly overcome with a warm feeling all over my body, and I felt a presence that I knew right away was the Datura spirit. She had come to me at last. For some reason, I just knew that she was telling me that through her I would find the answer to the questions I had been meditating on. I was living in a small town in southeast Texas at the time. There were literally hundreds of Daturas around where I lived, so I quickly went to a wooded area a few blocks from my house where I had seen a beautiful angel's trumpet shrub, which I had kept my eye on for quite some time. I asked her spirit to surrender an open pot of seeds so that I might sow her seeds and care for a plant or two of my own. I felt that growing my own plant was the only way I could prove my trust to her. Months had passed and turned into a year since I had planted my seeds, and I was anxious as hell to finally taste of my child and bear witness to her divine secrets. I had taken much patience and took great care of my now overly fruitful plant. Every night I would pray for it and speak with it and meditate on it. I finally decided that it was time. I took of her 3 flowers, which were not fully blossomed, and 2 leaves. I then invited my friend, same friend from above, over to sit for me while I spend my time with the spirits. He was reluctant to do so, mostly because he still felt like it was a bad idea, but came over anyway to ensure my safety. I boiled only 2 flowers and 1 leaf. I was not sure of the exact potency and felt it would be much safer, into a teapot for about 30 minutes, all the while meditating and asking her spirit to be with me and protect me during our venture. After letting the now greenish liquid cool for a while, I decided that the only way to drink this tonic was with the help of some mellow tunes playing in the background. I didn't have any mellow tunes, however, so I sprung for the next greatest thing since sliced bread, Mr. Bungle. Mike Patton never let anyone down. I put the CD on repeat and consumed my beverage, being as how I've consumed many crude, ethnobotanical teas in my day. Syrian rue, Argyria nervosa, Banisteriopsis caapi, ayahuasca vine, Amanita muscaria, Hymia salicifolia, Impomuea, morning glory, etc., etc., etc. I'm not exactly one to ask how if it tastes good or not. It surely doesn't taste like anything that should be allowed in the market, that's for sure. Tea plus 35 minutes. I'm beginning to feel very lightheaded, kind of like when I stand up too fast and kind of lose touch for a while. My mouth is extremely dry, and it is hard to quench my thirst. I decide to lay down on the floor directly facing my plant and close my eyes. With the bungle still raging on, I start to drift off, and find myself entering into a dreamlike state full of majestic landscape and bright scenery. I was drifting along, losing all touch with reality, speaking to the animals that I passed by, and they would speak back. It was incredible, I felt at one with Mother Nature, and never wanted to leave the world I was in. I completely forgot Tim was there until he shouted at me, "Are you okay, man? You've been laying there not moving for like 3 hours." That was impossible. It only seemed like 5 minutes. I reassured him that all was well, though I don't think he understood me because he kept asking me what I was talking about, and every time I tried to explain to him what was going on and how great it was, he would just stare blankly at me in confusion like I wasn't speaking English. Finally, I just gave him a reassuring thumbs up to communicate what body language I could. "All right then," he returned. "I'm going to take a nap for a while. Let me know if you need anything." I told him okay and let him sleep in my bed while I finished my journey. But first I thought, I need some water. I went into the kitchen to get a drink of water from a Long John silver glass, a glass that I lost years ago and never saw. When I reached to get my Brita out of the fridge, the glass disappeared. Then when I looked back at the fridge, it wasn't the fridge at all. I was opening my medicine cabinet. This made me giggle so much that I almost pissed myself. Thank God I was already in the bathroom. After I took a piss, I went back into the den to lay on the couch for a while. To my surprise, I came into a full house. Many of my friends, it seems, invited themselves to a party at my house that I didn't even know was going on. This didn't bother me though. I told one of my friends who was taking out my Mr. Bungle CD and replacing it with some good old November, my favorite band of all time, to make sure he remembered to lock the door after letting everyone in. I'm not sure if he was the one who let everyone in or not. A few hours went by, and I was having some very deep conversations with many of my friends about random theories and philosophies. At one point, I went into the kitchen to get some Doritos of the salsa verde variety to share with my friends who I assumed deserved a good treat. However, when I got back, everyone was gone, and my Mr. Bungle CD was still playing. Then a woman walked from my bedroom, a woman I had never seen before. I remember her like I remember my own name. She was so beautiful. Her hair was a vibrant dark red. Her deep green eyes were full of compassion and warmth. She looked at me like a daughter would look at her father after a long embrace. When she spoke, she didn't move her mouth. Rather, I would understand what she was communicating to me without using words. She was the spirit of my plant. She expressed gratitude for caring for her and helping her to grow all this time. In that moment, I felt like I was loved unconditionally. No matter how alone I felt, she would always love me. I was her father. She was my daughter. I don't remember much more of that night. I woke up the next day at about 11 p.m. I had drank the tea roughly around 4 p.m. the previous day. Tim was gone. I talked to him later on that day and told him what I had experienced and asked me if he was still my daughter. Dumbfounded, I asked him what he was talking about. He told me that he came to check on me because I kept yelling something about how there is no such thing as rain, and I would keep running back and forth the house with a bag of Doritos, which had been opened from the bottom, and all the chips fell out onto the floor and were infinitely trampled. Then he said when he came in the room, I looked at him and started to tear and kept mumbling something like my daughter. You're my daughter. This made me laugh so hard I almost pissed myself again. Oh yeah, I had also written all over my walls with many colored crayons, some kind of symbology that I had never seen before. Anyway, this was the first of many wonderful Datura experiences. I am glad I found a bond of love with this plant and her spirit. She has never betrayed me, nor I her. One time I was with her by myself and I almost walked onto a busy interstate. If it weren't for some road construction guys there to save my neck, I could have been squashed. Take care and respect Mother Earth.